Hi everyone, today I'm continuing reading this book, Deep Work by Cal Newport. Okay, last time also we have read a yeah, so what this book. Okay, Deep Work is a professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to your limit, to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve your skills, and are hard to replicate. Deep work is necessary to wring every last drop of value out of your current intellectual capacity. We now know from decades of research in both psychology and neuroscience that the state of mental strain that accompanies deep work is also necessary to improve your abilities. Deep work, in other words, was exactly the type of effort needed to stand out in a cognitive demanding field like academic psychiatry in the early 20th century. The term deep work is my own and is not something Carl Jung would have used, but his actions during this period were those of someone who understood the underlying concept. Jung built a tower out of stone in the woods to promote deep work in your professional life, a task that required time, energy, and money. It also took him away from more immediate pursuits. As Mason Fury writes, Jung's regular journeys to Bollingen reduced the time he spent on his clinical work, noting although he had many patients who relied on him, Jung was not shy about taking time off. Deep work, though a burden to prioritize, was crucial for his goal of changing the world. Indeed, if you study the lives of other influential figures from both distant and recent history, you will find that the commitment to deep work is a common theme. The 16th century easiest Michael de Montaigne, for example, Jung prefigured Jung by working in a private library he built in the southern tower guarding the stone walls of his French chateau, while Mark Twain wrote much of the adventures of Tom Sawyer in the shed on the property of Quarry Farm in New York, where he was spending the summer. Twain's study was so isolated from the main house that his family took to blowing a horn to attract his attention from meals. Moving forward in history, consider the screenwriter and director Woody Allen. In the 44-year period between 1969 and 2013, Woody Allen wrote and directed 44 films that received 23 Academy Award nominations and observed a rate of artistic productivity Throughout his period, Allen never owned a computer, instead, completing all his writing free from electronic distraction. On a German Olympia SN3 manual typewriter, Allen is joined in his rejection of computers by Peter Higgs, a theoretical physicist who performed his work in such disconnected isolation that journalists couldn't find him after it was announced he had won the Nobel Prize. J.K. Rowling, on the other hand, does use a computer, but was famously absent from social media during the writing of her Harry Potter novels. Even though this period coincided with the rise of the technology and its popularity among media figures, Rowling staff finally started a Twitter account in her name in the fall of 2009. As she was working on the casual vacancy and for the first year and a half, her only tweet read, "This is the real me, but you won't be hearing from me often. I am afraid as pen and paper is my priority at the moment." Deep work, of course, is not limited to the historical or technophobic. Microsoft CEO Bill Gates famously conducted Think Weeks twice a year, during which we have isolated twice a year, during which he would isolate himself, often in a lakeside cottage, to do nothing but read and think big thoughts. It was during a 1995 Think Week that Gates wrote his famous Internet tidal wave memo that turned Microsoft's attention to an upstart company called Netscape Communication. And in an ironic twist, Neil Stephenson, the acclaimed cyberpunk author who helped form our popular conception of the internet age, is near impossible to reach electronically. His website offers no email address and features an essay about why he is purposefully bad at using social media. Here's how he once explained the omission. If I organize my life in such a way that I get lots of long, consecutive, uninterrupted time chunks, I can write novels. If I instead get interrupted in lots, what replaces it? Instead of a novel that will be around for a long time, there is a bunch of emails message that I have sent out to an individual person. Oh, I want to read this line again. So, okay. In an ironic twist, Neil Stephenson, the acclaimed cyberpunk author who helped form our popular conception of the internet age, is near impossible to reach electronically. His website offers no email address and features an essay about why he is purposefully bad at using social media. Here's how he once explained the omission. If I organize my life in such a way that I get lots of long, consecutive, uninterrupted time chunks, I can write novels. If I instead get uninterrupted a lots, what replace it? Instead of a novel that will be around for a long time, there is a bunch of email messages that I have sent out to individual persons. The ubiquity of deep work, the ubiquity, the ubiquity, the ubiquity of deep work among influential individuals is important to emphasize because it stands in sharp contrast to the behavior of most modern knowledge workers, a group that's rapidly forgetting the value of going deep. The reason knowledge workers are losing their familiar the reason knowledge workers are losing their familiarity with deep work is well established network tools. This is a broad category that captures communication service like email and SMS, social media network like Twitter and Facebook, and the shiny tangle of infotainment sites like BuzzFeed and Reddit. In aggregate, the rise of these tools combined with ubiquitous access to them through smartphones and network office computers has fragmented most knowledge workers' attention into slivers. A 2012 McKinsey study found that the average knowledge worker now spend more than 60% of the work week engaged in electronic communication and internet searching, with close to 30% of a worker's time dedicated to reading and answering email alone. This state of fragmented attention cannot accommodate deep work, which requires long period of uninterrupted thinking. At the same time, however, modern knowledge workers are not loafing. In fact, they report that they are as busy as ever. What explains the discrepancy? A lot can be explained by author, another type of effort, which provides a counterpart to the idea of deep work. Shallow work. What is shallow work? Non-cognitively demanding, logistically styled tasks often performed while distracted. These efforts tend to create much new value in the world and are easy to replicate. In an age of network tools, in other words, knowledge workers increasingly replace deep work with a shallow alternative. Constantly sending and receiving email messages like human networks, routers with frequent breaks for quick hits of distraction. Larger efforts that would be well served by deep thinking, such as forming a new business strategy or writing an important grant application, get fragmented into distracted dash that produce muted quality. To make matters worse for depth, there is increasingly evidence that this shift towards the shallow is not a choice that can be easily reversed. Spend enough time in a state of frenetic shallowness and you permanently reduce your capacity to perform deep work. Oh ho ho. Okay. Wait. What's the net seems to be doing is chipping away my capacity for concentration and contemplation, admitted journalist Nicholas Carr in an oft-cited 2008 Atlantic article, and I am not the only one. Carr expanded this argument into a book, The Shallows, which became a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. To write Shallows appropriately enough, Carr had to move to a cabin and forcibly disconnect it. Okay. I want to read this paragraph once again. I'll be reading this paragraph once again. I don't want to, I will be reading this paragraph once again. In an age of network tools, in other words, knowledge workers increasingly replace deep work with the shallow alternative, constantly sending and receiving email messages like human network routers, with frequent breaks for quick hits of distraction. Larger efforts that would be well served by deep thinking, such as forming a new business strategy or writing an important grant application, get fragmented into a distracted dashes that produce muted quality, which means large effort that could be well served by deep thinking, such as forming a new business strategy or writing an important grant application, get fragmented into distracted dashes that produce muted quality. To make matter worse for depth, there is increasing evidence that this shift toward the shallow is not a choice that can be easily reversed. Spend enough time in a state of frenetic shallowness and you permanently reduce your capacity to perform deep work. What's the net seems to be doing stripping away my capacity from concentration and contemplation. Okay. The idea that network tools are pushing our work from the deep toward the shallow is not new. The Shallow was just the first in a series of recent books to examine the internet's effect on our brains and work habits. These subsequent titles include William Powers Hamlet Blackberry, John Freeman The Trinity of Email, and Alex Sujan Kim The Pan The Distraction Addiction, all of which agree more or less the network tools are distracting us from which from from work that requires unbroken concentration while simultaneously degrading our capacity to remain focused. Okay, yes, agree. Given this existing body of evidence, I will not spend more time in this book trying to establish this point. We can, I hope, stipulate that network tools negatively impact deep work. I will also sidestep any grand argument about the long term societal consequence of this shift. As such, arguments tend to open impassable rifts. On one side of the debate are techno skeptics like Jaron Lanier and John Freeman, which suspect that many of these tools, at least in their current state, damage society. While on the other side, techno optimistic like Cliff Thompson argue that they are changing society for sure, but in ways that will make us better off. Google, for example, might reduce our memory, but we no longer need good memories. As in the moment, we can now search for anything we need to know. Yes, I have no stance in this philosophical debate. My interest in this matter instead veers towards a thesis of much more pragmatic and individualized interest. Our work culture shift towards the shallow. Whether you think it's philosophically good or bad is exposing a massive economic and personal opportunity for the few who recognize the potential of resisting this trend and prioritizing depth. An opportunity that not too long ago was leveraged by a bored young consultant from Virginia named Jason Ben. There are many ways to discover that you are not valuable in our economy. It is, there are many ways to discover that you are not valuable in our economy. For Jason Ben, the lesson was made clear when he realized not long after taking a job as a financial consultant that the vast majority of his work responsibility could be automated by a kludge together Excel script. Kludge. The firm that hired Ben produced reports for banks involved in complex deals. It was about an interesting as it sounds. Ben joked in one of our interviews. The report creation process required hours of manual manipulation of data in a series of Excel spreadsheets. When when he first arrived it to Ben, then up to 6 hours per When he first arrived, it took Ben up to 6 hours per report to finish this stage. The most efficient veterans at the firm could complete this task in around half the time. This didn't sit well with Ben. This way it was the way it was because seems punching manual intensive, Ben recalls. He knew the Excel has feature called macros that